Hi all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag because it is that time of year. It's July, so we are over the halfway point of the year, and I really love this tag. Everyone and their dog has done it. My lovely friend Charlotte from Books and Bargains tagged me, although I was going to do it, but it's always nice to be tagged. So yeah, we're just going to check in with my reading at the halfway point of the year, and I really like the questions of this tag, so let's do it. So question 1, best book you've read so far in 2020. If anyone that has been watching my channel for more than 10 minutes, can you guess what my favourite book so far this year is? It's Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. I really need to find out how to say that properly. This is a book about cannibalism. So if this is your first video that you're watching from me, hi, I like to weird read stuff. So this was a book that I heard about via Harriet Rosie Reads, and she said that it made her feel sick to her stomach, which made me immediately order it. And then I read it all in one day, and it's incredible. So it's set in a world, an alternative world. Is that the postman? Yes, good, professional as ever. It's set in an alternative world where animal flesh can no longer be consumed because of a virus, which has made all animal flesh poisonous. And so they have legalised the consumption of human meat. And this follows a man who works in an abattoir, and it's basically about him, and it's about how one of the things that I loved about it is it's changing one thing and how that affects the whole of society. And it's not for everybody, and it's very visceral, so be careful. Please check the content warnings before you pick it up. But to me, I thought it was really beautifully done. It's also, to me, I thought it was a lot about loneliness and about how disconnected people can be. And yeah, it just had a lot of really interesting things to say, and I thought it was wonderful, and I will definitely be rereading it before the end of the year. Question 2, best sequel you've read so far in 2020. This was easy because I only read one. I'm not a big series reader, but I did read this one and thoroughly enjoyed it, and that is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, which is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I actually read that last month, so it'll be in my June wrap up. But I read this with Charlotte from Books and Bargains, and A Curse So Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and this is the sequel, so I can't really say too much about it. But this does go off in a different direction than the first one. We've got new characters, we've got new points of view. This cover is just so glorious. I love that green, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. YA fantasy is not my genre, but there's something about these that I just find really addictive, and yeah, I had a great time. Can't wait for the third one, which isn't actually out until January, which is kind of a problem. Question 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. This book came out in 2019, but the paperback I think has just been released, and I'm not very good at like keeping up with new releases, so I was looking at my shelves and I couldn't actually see anything that had been published in this year. So I've gone with this book because it's arrived this week, so I've only just got it and I'm really excited to read it, and that is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. First of all, again, like, how gorgeous is this cover? And the spine, I'm like, it's gonna look so good on my shelf with the spine. Although I might put it face out just because that cover is so beautiful. Anyway, this is about a teenage girl who's also a mother, and she wants to be a chef, yeah. And this is her story. And two things, I think it'll be, I've heard amazing things about Elizabeth Acevedo's writing in general, but also this book specifically. But also, like, I was attracted to this one out of all of her work because it's about food, and I love books with food in. So I'm gonna be reading this probably in August. I'm not sure I'm going to fit it into my July TBR, but I will be getting to it as soon as I can. And I also was gifted this copy by the lovely Lauren from Lauren the Books. I won a giveaway that she was running, and she was this is one of the books that she was kind enough to send me. Question 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So one of my favourite books of last year was The Psychology of Time Travel by Kate Mascarenhas, and she's got a book, her second book is due out, which is called The Thief on the Winged Horse. It was supposed to come out in August, I think, but it's been pushed back because of COVID, and I think it's now coming out towards the end of the year, sort of November time. I have to be honest, I know nothing about the synopsis of the book, don't know what it's about, but I will read it because I loved her first book so much that she became an Insta-buy author on her debut novel. And yeah, like I already said, I'm not very good at keeping up with like new releases, but because I loved her first book so much, I've been watching to see what else that she was releasing, and this is coming out, and I will definitely be reading it as soon as I can get my hands on it. Question 5, biggest disappointment. I haven't actually DNF'd any books this year so far, which is great. I've got a lot better at choosing the books I want to read, but this one did disappoint me, and I was particularly upset because it was very kindly gifted to me by a friend. But I was just so bored, and I think I only pushed through and finished it because it was a gift, and I gave it 2 stars because certain sections of it were really well done and they sort of pulled me through the book. But when I came away from it afterwards, I think I gave it 3 stars initially, but it's definitely more of a 2 because I was bored senseless through most of it. That book is Descent by Tim Johnson. I was drawn to this. Well, it says on the front, it says a riveting literary thriller of the can't stop turning the page, stay up all night variety. No, that was not my experience of this book. I can't remember who I saw talking about it. I think it might have been on Bookstagram, somebody was recommending it. And I was drawn to it because it's basically about a family who go to the mountains for the summer holiday. The teenage daughter and son go off for a run one morning, and only the son comes back. The daughter is abducted, and it then jumps forward and you're following the family in the aftermath of that. And I thought that'd be really interesting. And also you're trying to work out what has happened to the daughter. So that all sounded really interesting, but it was just so dull. And I don't say that very often about books. And you know, if you enjoyed this book, then great, I'm really pleased for you. But I was just bored, senseless, and it was definitely really disappointing. Okay, biggest surprise. So this is a book that is a Booktube darling. I'm always skeptical of books that are Booktube darlings because I don't always have the same taste as other people on Booktube. As you know, Tender is the Flesh is one of my favourite reads of the year so far. And this is a book that's been really, really hyped. However, this is an author that I knew I liked because I've read some of their other works, but this genre is not my genre at all, and the book is really long. So I was a little bit nervous to pick it up, but it's turned out to be one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, and that is Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. So this has been all over Booktube. I think Kayla from Books and Lala is probably the first person I saw talking about this. I love the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire, which is her novella series. Absolutely have adored all of those books. But this was my first full-length novel by her, and I think, yeah, it's 528 pages, so it's quite a big book. Also, I absolutely love this. This is another cover that I just adore, particularly because once you've read the book, you know the significance of the cover, and it gets even creepier. I mean, I think this is creepy on its own, but then when you know the significance of this, it's even worse. So this is a very difficult book to put into a genre. It's a sci-fi contemporary dark book. We're following twins Roger and Dodger, who have been separated at birth, and then when they're about 7, they realise, so they're on separate sides of the country, they suddenly realise that they can communicate telepathically, and that's all I'm going to say because it's one of those books you need to go in blind if possible. I don't like sci-fi. This is very heavy on that, and somehow I still loved it. And I don't, it's one of those books that you sort of get to the end and you're like, wow, I really enjoyed that, but I have no idea how that happened. So yeah, this is definitely my most surprising read of the year so far. Question 7, favourite new author, debut or to you? So this isn't a debut author, but somebody that I've discovered very recently, and it was my favourite read of last month, and I will definitely be going back and rereading their backlist and then anything else that they put out, and that's River Solomon, who was the author of The Deep. This was such a surprise for me last month. I'm not going to get too into it because it was in my June wrap up, but the writing was absolutely just stunning, and yeah, I will be going back to their backlist and then reading anything they bring out going forwards, and I'm very excited to get more into their writing because this was absolutely beautiful. Question 8, newest fictional crush. Right, so we're gonna have to go back to A Heart So Fierce and Broken for this. I'm not really one to get crushes on book characters, but Leah Mara, who is a new character in this, whose point of view we get, I'm completely in love with her, and she's just really interesting, and I feel like this is a book that I'm gonna want to reread for her voice. Like, we get Leomara and we get Grey in this book, and I like Grey as well, but Leomara I'm just like in love with, because she grows a lot in the book, and I can't really talk too much about it because spoilers, but she's just so interesting, and the way she views the world is really interesting, and she is just out to do the best for everybody and take care of everybody and do the best for her country. And I love how she develops and how her relationship with another character in the book develops as well. So yeah, she's definitely my current fictional crush. Yeah, definitely Leomara from here, from A Heart So Fierce and Broken. Right, question 9, newest favourite character. So this was quite hard because I don't really get that attached to characters once I finished the book. But one that sprang to mind was Nina Gill from The Million Pieces of Nina Gill by Emma Smith Barton. Forgot that for a second. This is a book I read for Mental Health Fund back in May. It was the group book that Nicole chose, and I just love her. I think it's because she feels so real, and she's such a real teenager. This book is a YA contemporary in which we follow Nina. Her brother has disappeared a year previously, and it's about her mental health basically disintegrating. And I just think she's such a wonderfully realistic character, and yeah, when I read the prompt, she was the first character who sprang to mind, so it had to be her. Question 10, a book that made you cry. This book made me cry a lot. I don't cry very much at books because I'm dead inside. I don't know. I don't often cry at books. I very often cry at like TV and film, but for some reason books very rarely get me to that point. But this made me cry several times. I've got a reading vlog for when I read this, so I'll link that so that you can watch that. And yeah, this really got me in the feels. Next, question 11, book that made you happy. So there's nothing like doing this tag to make me realise how many depressing books I read, because I think there's only one book that's made me laugh out loud this year, which I think I read this right at the start of the year. And that's 'Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas by Adam Kay. I've also reread This Is Going to Hurt, which is the first book by Adam Kay this year, which also made me laugh. This is basically the Christmas edition of that. It's non-fiction. It's his stories of working over Christmas period as an NHS doctor, and it made me laugh out loud several times, as did This Is Going to Hurt. Question 11. No, I've just done 11. Question 12. Most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. So this is a book I'm actually currently reading. And I was looking through all the books on my TBR shelf and on my red shelves, and this is definitely, like, there's some really beautiful covers. I feel like The Deep has got a beautiful cover. I've already mentioned Middle Game. I love this cover. Also, Heart So Fierce and Broken. And actually they're all like dark toned, and so is the one that I've chosen for this prompt. Yeah, however, I think this is the most beautiful book I've received, which was a gift. Who was this from? From Tracy, from Tracy's Era Books. She gifted me this, and it's The Binding by Bridget Collins. I'm reading this right now, so as you can see I'm like halfway, and can we just take in how beautiful this cover is? And then, because I don't read books with dust jackets on, oh, that's the spine. I don't read books with the dust jackets on because I'm not an animal. When I take the dust jacket off to read it, look how glorious this is. Look at that. And that's a pretty book. Like, no one's going to tell me different. That is a pretty book. I'm currently halfway through this, and at the moment it's a 5-star read, but you'll see that in my wrap up. This is sort of historical fiction. It's like an alternative historical fiction in which books are used to bind people's memories, and we're following an apprentice bookbinder. That's kind of all I can say about it so far, and I'm absolutely thoroughly enjoying it. But yeah, look, that's a beautiful book. And then question 13, which books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I keep alluding to this in videos, but I have a reading list or a TBR that I have to read for a reason, and the next video that goes up after this on Wednesday will explain what I've been vaguely talking about for about a year. So my reading for the next few months has been dictated by that. But of that list of books, the one that I'm most excited to get to is Anita and Me by Mira Sayal, hopefully I've said that right. Because this just looks really fun, and I'll read you the synopsis because obviously I haven't read it yet, so I'm not completely clear on what it's about, but I'll read you the back. Like every 9-year-old girl, Meena can't wait to grow up and break free from her parents, but as the daughter of the only Punjabi family in the mining village of Tollington, her daily struggle for independence is different from most. She wants fish fingers and chips, not chapati and dal. She wants English Christmas, not the usual interminable Punjabi festivities, but more than anything, more than miniskirts and the freedom to watch Opportunity Knocks, Meena wants to roam the backyards of working class Tollington with feisty Anita Rutter and her gang. And I feel like this is going to be really fun and warm, and I think like a coming of age type story. And so yeah, so all of the books that have been set by my TBR, this is definitely the one I'm most excited to get to, and I think I'll be reading this in August. So those are all the questions. I've got books everywhere now. I'm not going to tag anybody to do this tag because, like I said at the start, everyone and their dog has probably already done it. But if you haven't done it and you'd like to, consider yourselves tagged. I'll do this as an open tag. Drop me a comment below with your favourite book of the year so far and your most disappointing, because I always find that interesting. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks all. Bye.